So here is the 11 shot toxic rain. So really wanted to see how far you could push it with the Phantasmal toxic rain. So we've got basically +3 levels to our support gems, which pushes our enhanced level 7, which gives it 48% extra quality to active skill gems. Then we have a 23, and when we add all that together, that gets us over the kind of 50 mark. So we could pick up an extra, well actually gets us to the 70% mark. So we pick up 7 extra arrows on top of the 4 base. And so obviously the thought would be to get rid of the Mirage Archer and see how it goes. We might have to swap. Well, that'd be silly, but we'll see about toggling some things and see how this plays. First time I've actually got to it. I've been slowly building this up. I had it at 8 arrows, 9 arrows. It clears well. We're going to show you a couple things. But it does have some single target issues, which we'll kind of get into here in a second. And its speed isn't maybe as fast as you would think. I'll show you the difference in comparison components to speed and a bit more detail and where I think it has potential but needs some work when it comes to, for example, here's the single target. It's not bad by any means, but it's nowhere near as good as using a Malice version and just going with a standard build. As you can see there, and the biggest problem Phantasmal has is while we're clearing or hitting the entire screen, as you can see, let me clear all this clear here. That is one click, and we clear almost half the screen. And if we shoot like 3, that's all of it over top. So if we do just a quick sweep, we can cover the entire room and get really good clear. Problem that you run into, and I really wish they didn't do this debuff effect. I think it's a little overkill. And where it has a problem. So as you can see, as we add more quality to and basically pick up more arrows, we're also way reducing its debuff effect. So the gem itself is kind of self-nerfing with quality. I really think they should have capped the reduced effect or kind of made it scale a little less because the gem just doesn't feel right. Yeah, we get a ton of area coverage, but we don't get much else out of it. And really, you're better off just having the Mirage, especially with the new Mirage that has increased duration. Because that increased duration will really makes the Mirage stay there for a while, and it keeps the item, your toxic ring, on the ground a lot farther or longer. Now, for something like a Legion, it's absolutely wonderful because we can just pop it and go. But you can see where that single target starts to have some challenging aspects. It's not terrible, but it's just not great because of the debuff involved with it. I think if you were doing a primary hit toxic ring, which of course nobody really wants to build it that way, or an explosion based off the plant explosion, to where you were running a high chaos hit bow or physical damage bow, 1000 DPS physical damage bow. So each one of those initial hits did significantly more damage. You might be in a better spot. But the single target just feels so clunky. And to be honest, the global damage, we'll go ahead and just kind of dump this here. We'll run another map. And I'll show you what I mean here. Let's see here. Just trying to find something that's not jinxing the damage too much. Actually, let's go ahead and pick up. I don't know if this is going to be bad for damage, but it was just something I wanted to try as well, which is keeping Mirage and putting it in probably Void Manipulation. And just seeing if the 30-some arrows or 22 arrows coming down fills that gap in for some of the single target piece. So as you can see, you can just pop on the map and then just run past. So from clear, it's pretty good, you know. You just got to be comfortable with trusting that your damage is going to be there. If you wait to watch for it, your clear is garbage. But if you just trust that it's going to be there, then, you know, single target, blue packs, that kind of stuff will easily clear. Yellows aren't too bad, but they need a backtracking for drops at times, which can be a bit of a pain. So I see it as having potential because you can see I can basically, I mean, that's all one arrow. That's just one shot into the pack, and it almost took them all out. One more should do the trick, almost. But it's still just, I mean, the same can be done with, I mean, that's a standard yellow, which with this build should just evaporate in 2 seconds. So I think the issue is that debuffing aspect. Now there's probably ways around some of these, like increasing area of effect so that each pod has a longer range of reach would be useful. Like I said, we'll try here in the other half of the map what happens when we put Mirage instead of Chaos Multiplier there. Just to see if the abundance of pods works out or not. I think it's just the delay that it makes it feel so uncomfortable, especially when you're in a big boss fight. I mean, think about having Sirius at like 70% delayed DPS damage. So I think this is going to be because we need the enhance and we need Swift to make this thing even remotely feel comfortable. Really want to keep the empower for the 7 levels. So let's do this and see what we get. See how it feels. See if our Mirage Archer can fill in the negative impacts here that we have. And I'm sure people have figured out a better way to do this. I'm just kind of notating that for a less experienced person not understanding what's going on with that boosting and the fact that our arrows are covering the entire screen. But that doesn't always mean a good thing, especially when you get into something like this. Now for this guy who bounces all over the map, as you can see we can basically clear the entire area with Mirage Archer, but that is just, I mean, he's out regenning us on hit. So, and granted he's hexproof, so we're not getting our hex debuff there. But it's just terrible damage when it comes to single target, because most of our damage is out of the reach. So we're going to have to change our build to basically increase area of effect to enormous amounts. Then I think it would feel really comfortable. We know Mirage is not a good option. And because we got to run Enhance, we're losing the option to put Vicious Projectiles in. Now, like I said, we could always do gem swapping for single target. But I've never been a person that really enjoyed gem swapping, especially if I have to swap 2 gems. I think from a clear perspective, it's a bit faster. But with that debuff nerf following or increasing exponentially with the quality is what's killing this gem for me. Like I said, now if we were doing something where our bow was super high physical, we were converting it, doing some poison, the pods were less of a DPS component and more of a hit mechanic, then I think that would be a better component. Now, if we wanted to, we could also look at this fellow here. And if we slot him in, so we have 582 there. And then we look here, still 582, but we're picking up an extra 34% increased skill duration. We'll still go with this and we'll just do some quick dumps out of this. We'll go ahead and run this. Now it's got 87% more monster life compared to the last, or 47 I should say, compared to the last map. But I think you'll find that this setup and really the enhance would probably go away. But I'm curious to see if pushing Animalist option way up there for duration helps on a boss fight. So as you can see, our clear is just about, or if not even better, because these guys are pretty much the same tier map, 47% more life, and we still don't have any problem with clearing them at all. And this is even without Mirage throwing down extras around the area, because this lasts forever. Especially with our other increased duration. You can see how quickly, of course I'm paying more attention to life than what's hitting me, how quickly everything just builds and drains down, because we're not faced with that massive kind of debuff. So we're getting the advantage of the Swift Affliction, we're getting the extra chaos damage that we're not having to give up the, basically, you know, slot and a half for, or slot for. But yeah, if you want to take a quick look at how long these pods stay down, that is a lot of time. But I still think it's not, I think it's worth running a Malice overall, because really don't need the increased area of effect that Toxic Rain by default gives. I mean, it's helpful with pushing damage at times. I think the added duration is probably a nicer component when you're trying to damage stack on a boss, because you want to just get as many pods attached to them as you can, and the more duration that you get, the better off. I am going to blitz past a lot of this and see if we can get to the boss, since we have Acceleration Shrine here. Of course, this boss is a pain to demo against. Because he likes to hide. But as you can see, this build is melting the boss so much faster in this version. And really all we did was change out our Toxic Rain. I don't think Enhance is a good option with Amelius. I mean, it's not bad. It's nice. It gives it an extra. We'll see if the GPS calculation will tell us our duration. I'm not sure if it does. 1 second here. Like I said, if my build was a little different and I focused instead of duration in the skill tree and took nodes for increased area of effect, I think it could work out. And I'm going to take a look through that. I'm going to keep kind of playing around with the build in a couple different orientations, see if a few skill tree reworks would make sense. I just got to make sure that we're not going to end up missing damage over area of effect. Because I don't want, like, you know, oh, great, we got amazing clear, but you got to completely destroy the build when it comes to just pure raw single target DPS. And like I said, yes, we could swap between the two with gems and have amazing super clear speed and then amazing super single target. But it's just a pain. And since this build really benefits a lot off of the Awakened gems, it's kind of too expensive to have a bow swap. Because, you know, typically speaking, the bows aren't that expensive to buy and get a hand of, so you could set up two bows. A single target bow if you were min-maxing, and then a clear speed bow that was using Phantasmal, and that could work really, really well. It's just so expensive to set up. I just don't know if it's worth the cost aspect. But if this was going to be your primary main and only character, you could set that up. That'd be great. Or if you don't mind carrying your gems and dealing with gem swapping, that would be another option to really kind of get the best of both worlds. So from a pure clear, just shoot once, run by, keep going, know that everything's going to die. Phantasmal is great, because especially as things are chasing you, they're going to hit the other pods, they're going to get latched on, those kinds of things. From a want to be lazy player and not have to deal with everything, corpse, not have to deal with everything under the sun, swapping back and forth, all that, just really kind of wanting to zip around clear. Either regular Toxic Rain in a 21-23 setup or a Malice in a 21-23 or even just a 21, I think are your best case scenarios. Divergent is another one of those if you were aiming to do a high DPS bow, then you'd be good. Because the DPS hits. But let's face it, if you're going to do a high DPS bow build, you're not doing Toxic Rain. There's a lot better skills out there for high hit damage items out there. You'd probably be running, you know, I'm trying to remember the other one. Basically the one that branches off as you charge and channel, or a fire arrow with, you know, conversion, those kinds of things. You would be the much more likely options. Tornado shot for a high hit DPS bow. So I don't know if the devs really hit Phantasmal where it really should be. It just feels off. Like, And like I said, I'm going to, see if, changing the tree around a little bit might have some, advantage if we took some, kind of in here and got area of effect. Let's see here. Nope. Nope, that wouldn't help us any. We already have there for area of effect. Um, couldn't really get to those without a lot of wasted travel. That's aura skills only. That's traps. Straps. So as you can see, we don't have a lot of AoE potential in our area that's not trap related. And traveling over here, just none of this is even really worth traveling to or even valid. So we don't have enough ways to build area of effect like we do down here. So if we were doing kind of like a even at that point wouldn't have a lot available. If you had Lion's Eye, you could really build this out to be some crazy build because you can convert all these nodes to, increase, like this right here would be a good one. You could really increase the area effects, but you'd have to do basically a lionized setup so that all of these AoE options converted to bow. If you did those, then you could probably make it worth it. I just don't think it's going to be worth it in this kind of setup. Like I said, clear, yeah, very good high-end clear. But from a single target, you just lose so much debuffing out of it. So I'll probably keep running Amalius just because of the increased skill duration. Any boss that stands at all still just gets melted with this. But I think I'm going to drop the enhance, go back to running either Vicious or Mirage. And even at that, that's kind of a clear piece question. Do you want a Mirage or Vicious? Personal preference, gem swap. Typically speaking, we melt everything T60 and below without Vicious. I only really swap Vicious in when I'm doing Shaper, Elder, Uber Elder, and Sirius, because the rest of the time the thing's down in a matter of seconds. It's not a big deal. That way I don't have to worry about carrying the extra gem around, making sure I don't accidentally put it in my dump tab. All that other kind of fun stuff that ends up happening at times. So that's kind of it in a nutshell for now. Just wanted to kind of work through what the Awakened or Phantasmal Toxic Ring with 11 arrows looks like. Like I said, I'm going to do some more research, dig around, figure out if there's a better way to do this. Is there a couple AoE options on uniques that push it up way high to where all 11 are still able to tap because they just reach, from halfway across the screen. And if we can get to that point, then yeah, it will be very, very strong. If we can't, then we're just losing too much DPS from that huge hit on the 70% off of our debuff, which is really just hurting that damage over time component. We're still taking it. We still have enough damage that it kills everything for the most part in one shot, maybe two shots. But we're getting that anyways, and not having to worry about our single target DPS. So that's it for now. Like and subscribe, and I'll have some more videos.